Sanjeev Chopra joins us, the Food Secretary, and let's understand from him that how exactly is the government preparing in case there is a effect of strong current El Nino on the monsoon. What about the preparedness and the food stocks, and what about the irrigation levels? Let's take all that conversation forward with Mr. Chopra. Mr. Chopra, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Now, the IMD has predicted higher than normal temperature, cycle of heat waves, and the onset of summer could be impacting the rainfall distribution this year. Is the government already preparing for a hard summer and a challenging rainfall this year?
Good morning. With regard to the high temperatures, of course, we are all aware that the temperatures are 2 to 3 degrees higher than normal. But then we had a meeting with the state food secretaries and the state food ministers last week. And we had a presentation also made by the IMD. So what we are finding out of the entire discussion is the fact that while the temperatures are a little on the higher side, but as of now, there has been no impact on the wheat crop. The wheat crop is healthy. And what we are told is that the temperatures are not likely to increase to a level which would impact the crop and impact the grain. So we are hoping and we are looking forward to a record bumper harvest this year of almost about 112 million tons.
But God forbid if there is a poor rainfall this year, poor monsoon. Could you walk us through the preparedness of the government, A, food stocks, and B, in generally the water level and reservoirs and the distribution and the dependence on rainfall?
The food stocks are fairly comfortable. We have, let's say, on 1st of April, the buffer stocks are about 75 lakh tons of wheat and about 136 lakh tons of rice. So what we have at present is fairly comfortable, in spite of the fact that we are also offering almost 50 lakh tons of wheat under the open market sales scheme. Still, at the end of the month, we would be higher than the buffer stocks of wheat as on the 1st of April. With regard to rice as well, we have had a very good procurement this season, and we are hoping that we would be touching the 500 lakh tons mark during the procurement for rice this year. And as a result, I don't foresee any shortages at all during this year on account of the food stocks that the government holds.
Mr. Chopra, from a consumer point of view, wanted to understand that if at all there is abnormal, weather patterns this year, hotter than hot summer or deficient rainfall, would it impact pricing in any way? Considering you are saying that, the reserves with the government are pretty much intact and would cater even if there is any abnormality.
So government is monitoring the situation. So we've got the reports from sources regarding the El Nino impact, and the probability is expected to be about 50 to 55%. But in the past, when we had these predictions with the certainty of about 40 to 45%, they did not really hold good. So we are monitoring the situation. We are seeing as to how the things pan out with regard to the monsoons. And the government will take the necessary steps as are required to ensure that the food stocks as well as the food prices remain range bound. With regard to the prices, again, the mandi prices ever since we began the OMSS operations through the FCI have gone down. They were about 2,800 about a month back, 2,800 per quintal a month back. And we are now reporting prices less than 2,300, about 2,280, 2,290 in the modal mandi prices as of day before.
Sure. So given how the supply situation has shaped up, should we expect any changes in, say, export norms of wheat, sugar, or rice?
Well, the national food security comes first, and while we are mindful of the fact that we have to also look at the export markets, but that cannot be at the cost of the national food security. So as of now, the wheat exports are banned, and there is no proposal as of now to open up the wheat exports. The sugar exports we had last November of about 60 lakh tons, and the sugar production is estimated to go down by about 9 lakh tons during this season, from 395 what we had in the previous season to or 386 is what we're expecting of sucrose production. We would be seeing a diversion of about 50 lakh tons of sugar for ethanol, so roughly giving us about 336 lakh tons of sugar during this season. The national consumption is about 275 lakh tons, and we have already allowed exports of 60 lakh tons. So I think one can do the math. So as of now, there is no proposal for any further exports of sugar for the time being.
I just wanted to understand, Mr. Chopra, morning firstly, what the outlook is when it comes to rural recovery post the pandemic, because we understand that that hasn't been as fast as expected. Is that so? And given how the Rabi season as well is expected to be, do you think we could see a rise when it comes to rural incomes and we could see that bounce back kicking in to the rural economy?
Yeah, we are keeping our fingers crossed. So the rural, the procurement, as I said, of rice has been pretty good. That will put more money in the pockets of the rural folk. And we are hoping that this will kickstart the recovery process. And I hope that the rural demand should be pretty robust this year.
So is it too early to assume that we are in for a hot summer, and if there is a poor rainfall distribution, inflation or food inflation could make a comeback? Because that is something which everybody is worried about.
So it's a little premature now to talk about the monsoons and how it will pan out. So we, as I said, we are keeping a close watch, and we would take appropriate steps as and when we have a fair indication of how the monsoons are likely to behave in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay. While you're sounding very confident about the winter crop, what about Kharif? What about the upcoming sowing season? Do you think that getting impacted?
No, that I don't see that getting impacted. As of now, as I said, since we have no indications of any kind of monsoon issues, there are reports, but as I said, these reports have come in the past and not really proved correct. So we are waiting for more certain estimates with regard to the monsoons, and as and when we have the estimates of the monsoons with us, we will take corrective measures. But then, as I said, as of now, there is no cause for alarm, no cause for worry. The food stocks are very comfortable. The prices are now coming down of the various agri commodities. So I think the country overall, I think, is in a fairly comfortable position with regard to the food grains.
When you say food stocks are comfortable, I'm assuming you're referring to next 12 months, and this also accounts the welfare schemes and the food distribution scheme. The quota is included in it?
Yeah, absolutely. The procurements have been pretty good, as I said, of rice and also wheat. We are anticipating a very good procurement of about 341 lakh tons over the next 2 months. So in case all goes as planned, and I have no reason to believe now that there should be any kind of a issue with regard to that. So I think we should be fairly comfortable with regard to the food grain availability.
Just to wrap it up with one final question, Mr. Chopra. When 20 years ago, India's dependence on monsoon and a rainfall and a good rainfall distribution was extremely high. But over the years, technology, better irrigation, the land which is getting irrigated because of mechanical purposes only increasing. So can I safely say that the dependence on monsoon, which was extremely high 15-20 years ago, is reducing each year?
Yeah, with more irrigation facilities getting created, one can say that the dependence on monsoons is not what it was a decade or even a couple of decades back. I have worked in the state of Odisha, and I can tell you that the areas of Odisha which were the hunger bowl, like Kalahandi and the western part of the state, are now rice bowl of the state and reporting very high procurement levels. So the dependence on monsoons has definitely gone down, and the irrigation potential that the country has created is standing us in good stead.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much for giving us a deeper understanding as to how things are shaping up on the rural front, what the expectations are as well when it comes to the sowing expectations for Rabi.